People say I'm toxic, and honestly, I don't care.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are. It's Abs of October Red, and we are back for just a little impromptu live. I was going to do like an audio recording and upload it tomorrow, but I thought, you know what? While I'm here, it's Saturday, I'm at home, the household chores are getting done, dinner's getting prepped, etc., etc. I thought we'd just catch up on it now. We've had an extremely interesting couple of weeks in boxing. Interesting to say the least. We're still seeing shifts and changes that are happening in boxing. And personally, I think it's good that we're having a little bit of a shake-up. So I'm going to start with the present and work backwards because we've kind of covered Conor Benn. We know what's happened with him. He's gone to Zuffa. Allegedly, even though it's not necessarily official, it's just sources have said that he's been given a certain amount potentially for a one-fight deal. Who knows? So that's all alleged. But let's go to this week. I was, scouting around Instagram as I do, checking the stories of fighters, promoters, just to see what's happening. That's where I usually get my information before I go on to X. Because usually if you go onto the pages of Instagram, it's full of things that aren't necessarily news. So Eddie Hearn's story, I think it was like Wednesday night. I just got back from my sister's funeral and I'm going like scrolling and it's like press conference tomorrow, which was obviously Thursday, 2 p.m. in London. I was like, what? So I'm checking my emails. Nothing's come through. I've sent out a couple of messages like, what is going on? Straight onto Twitter. Everyone's guessing what's happening, etc., etc. I'll get the email, but unfortunately I can't go to the presser. Gutted, because then rumor mill started to go and I think it was announced what was going to happen because it was going to be leaked anyway. So Tom Aspinal, obviously UFC heavyweight champion, has gone to Matchroom Talent. So he's not gone there to change from MMA to boxing. He's not gone there to change from a UFC fighter to a Matchroom fighter. He's gone there as they're going to be, say, for example, they're going to manage him. They're going to raise his social profile. They're going to be negotiating on financial deals, potentially to get the right amount of money for him. So it's a strategy move, a good move. I've just watched, and it's IFL interviews that I have watched. A shout out to Kugan Cassius from IFL that's done those interviews because he has asked the right questions. I watched the one with Tom Aspinall where he's asked about the relationship with Tom and Dana. He said, look, I don't necessarily have that direct line of communication with Dana, but I speak to somebody else. No problem with them, etc., etc. If you'd asked me a couple of weeks ago, would I be doing this? Absolutely no. This is more or less come out of nowhere. Obviously, there's been phone calls that have been made, but it seemed to have been compressed over the last, week or so, 2 weeks or so at the max, where he was invited out to Monaco. And obviously they gave him, the hard sale, which is what they can do for him. Profile raising, negotiating on money, kind of like a managerial role. Matchroom Talent Agency is set up to help people in whatever industry. They haven't put any borders or barriers around it. It's not named Matchroom Boxing Talent Pool, or it's just Matchroom Talent. So whatever they deem as talent, they'll be there to obviously negotiate, get sponsors, etc., 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 and obviously get a cut of your dough because obviously they're all in it for money. Why it's created so much of a debate is Tom Aspinall belongs to the UFC. He's a UFC fighter. He's their heavyweight champion. I think before John Jones retired, there was, potentially some talk about them. And if you guys are MMA fans, please correct me in the comments, or if you're watching this post, in the comments again, because I'm not an MMA person. I don't know how the strategy works. I've done plenty of videos where we spoke about Zuffa boxing coming in, about the potential amendment to the Muhammad Ali Act and the financial implications on the long term for fighters, but everything is all in its infancy. So you can look at Tom Aspinall signing with Matchroom Talent on the back of obviously Conor Benn leaving Matchroom and going to Zuffa. And Tom Aspinall said, I don't want to be like part of this point scoring system or getting one up on one and one getting one up on the other. But unfortunately for Tom Aspinall, the timing of this suggests that's exactly what he is. Does it suggest that Matchroom is not going to do what they're supposed to do with him? No. But the timing is, I'm going to get one up on you, because either the UFC, Dana White's going to turn around and say, I'm not having you fighting for us anymore. You need to be managed by one of us, or whatever it is, because according to Tom, his manager is his father. So there is that part. But we'll see how it plays out. I think Dana said that he was happy to continue to work with Tom, but we'll see how it goes moving forward. Eddie Hearn has suggested, implied, that there is other announcements to come. Funnily enough, Francis Ngannou's name seems to have popped back into the mix, saying that he's no longer fighting for PFL, and potentially that Dana White would never have him back due to their circumstances of the breakup. And I think he may have been involved in a legal dispute with the UFC. So potentially that bridge is burnt. Is Eddie going to sign him as talent? But who would he fight with? Because he obviously can't fight on the UFC. We don't really know what's happening with the PFL. And like I said, if you guys are MMA fans, let me know where else he could fight, who else he could fight for, etc., etc. So that is kind of where we are with this. And running alongside that, and I put a post up, so credit to Boxing Scene, they posted on their Instagram today that after, and it seems there was some potential negotiations with Jai Opetaia, with the IBF have decided to say, no, you're not going to fight alongside the Zuffa belt. You either fight for the IBF or you fight for the Zuffa belt, but they've kind of said you can't fight for both. So they're going to obviously strip the title off him. Now, I've spoken to Jai Opetaia, like, I think it's a couple of interviews I've done with him. I don't think I've done any more than that. And his main concern is, and it's what is kind of like drilled into all of our heads, because I remember I was saying to him, oh, what about heavyweight? Why don't you go up to heavyweight? He was like, no, I want to get the undisputed unify. I want to unify the belts, etc., etc. Sorry for that short distraction. It's telling me that my phone's running out of charge, but it's plugged into a charger, or whatever. So he was there, and then there was an interview that was posted online, and I reposted it on my social media page saying, oh, I do want to fight for the IBF belt, but I don't really know what's going on. And I was like, you've just signed a new contract with a new promotional company who is on the up, who is fighting hard in this game, and you don't know where you stand with your IBF belt. Now, what's your manager doing? You know, when you get a contract, you know, when you all start a job, everyone's had a job at some point. You have to sign a contract of employment. You're looking through it, and you know what you can do and what you can't do. And if there's anything that you're not sure about, you might Google it. These days, I guess it's ChatGPT. You might ask someone in your family that's good with contracts. You wouldn't necessarily go to the employer. You go to somebody independent and say, what does this mean? I want to be undisputed, or I want to be unified. Explain to me what this means. So it seems as if Jai was oblivious to what that meant. And he's always spoke about the belts. He was on about the legacy. He was on about all of that. And that, unfortunately, hasn't happened for him. So he's fighting for the Zuffa Cruiser World title belt. And this is how they start. Now, it's sad for him because he wanted to be unified. However, he's chosen to sign with Zuffa. And part of signing with Zuffa, what they wanted to do is get rid of the belts or have their own UBO. If you've seen me, I've done videos on this when it first came out ages ago about the UBO and about the amendment to the Ali Act, which the California State Boxing Commission and USA Boxing have now withdrawn their support. It's bipartisan still in what you call their parliament, Congress. But we've had a couple of, obviously, the amateurs have drawn out, the US amateurs have drawn out of that support, and the California State Boxing Commission, if I got that wrong, apologies, they've pulled out of it as well. So it's still there. It's not saying that they're not going to change. It's not going to say that the amendment's not going to be there, but it's showing that some guys that were supporting it have pulled away from it. Fair enough, and that's going to happen. And they've made their own belt anyway, so they're already on the progress. Zuffa on the progress to do what they want to do. But the title of this is Strategies. But before I get into strategy, shout out to Skyliner, the editor. I think Hearn likes drama and uses it as a vehicle for promotion and controlling a narrative within the sport overall. And Oppenheimer is conflicted. His management are pursuing the bag, where he wants to go for the traditional belts. And I agree with that. I do think he's conflicted. But at the end of the day, the management are going to look out for the financial side, because I've said this before. Are we in an era in boxing where the belts are just becoming irrelevant? It's like we want the best to fight the best, and that seems to be it. And I get Zuffa's point, but then they've made their own belt, which is kind of the same strategy that everyone else has done with the other belts that are there. So yeah, I agree. Conflicted is the correct word. And maybe he wasn't given everything in black and white. But what Zuffa is doing, like I said, they've created the belt. Now, what makes the belt prestigious is the person who's holding it. Now, they've signed Conor Benn. Everyone can sit down and say, oh, he hasn't even won an area title. And I get that. But he's still a name and he's still a brand. And if he does control a belt, whatever weight he's going to be fighting at, because he fluctuates, then people will want to fight him, and that can encourage more people to go and fight on Zuffa. So say, for example, they were targeting Benn. We know that because his trainer, Robert Garcia Sr., has said that's what they were targeting him. And it seems like it was all everyone's talking about is the money, massive money. Donna said it himself. There's loads of money within the sport. So it starts off with you guys getting paid a lot of money, but what's in the small print of the contract? So if they say, for example, they're not going to, but they get BAM, so they're signing top talent, then it forces the other fighters to come over. Potentially, they're going to be looking for heavyweights, all the weights, and they buy the fighters and they lock the fighters in, and then others will follow. That's the game. That's the strategy, isn't it? Anyone can see that with two eyes. They buy the fighters in, fighters prestigious, fighters belts, and then everyone else will follow. And that is how you make the other belts seem null and void, because no one's fighting them anymore, because the best fighters are with Zuffa. So that potentially is what is going to happen. Let's have a look. George, good afternoon to you. What's Jay been doing all of these years, though? And it's a bit of a tough one, that is, because Jay has always wanted to fight the best, but whoever's next in line hasn't wanted to fight him. Shout out to Jordan Thompson. Shout out to Ellis Zorro. Obviously, Marius Bradis went in there again. Those guys have stood in there and took a chance. But when it comes to like Zurdo, Ramirez, nowhere to be seen. It's like nobody wanted to fight him. So really, what is he supposed to do? It's a tough one. So if he thinks moving to another promoter is going to give him those opportunities, you can't knock that. But what I'm saying, and what a lot of people are saying, is he was always about the belts. And you're right, the belts can't feed the family. I've had the conversation with Joshua Boazzi about belts not being able to feed your family. I know what it is, but it just seems, like he said, like Skyliner said, that he's conflicted because he wanted to fight for the belts and he believed that he was still going to fight with the IBF. I'm sure he was standing up with the IBF when they had the face-off the other day, and then the IBF turned around and sent their little letter and went, well, actually, no, you're not. George goes on to say his manager hasn't done a good job for him, and that is all it is. And I would be asking questions of my management as well. I'm inclined to agree with you there, because there's no way I'm going to slag off Jai, because he's going after the money, but he's losing his legacy dream of the traditional belts. George then says big names are made from the legacy belts, not the Zuffa belt. I think, and I get that, and I do agree with you, but I think if Zuffa starts signing those great fighters that are coming towards the end of their contracts or whatever they're doing, then the belt becomes lucrative because of the names attached to it. I think that switch can happen. I really do believe that, because it's the fighter that makes the belt, because that's how it would have started off. Remember, there wasn't always belts. So to start it off, they had to build that belt by getting the best to fight the best, and then they held that belt, and that's where it became lucrative to have that belt. And Zuffa are doing that, but they're trying to get the great fighters to stand by each weight for their belt to make it lucrative, because it's the fighters that are going to make the belt. George goes on to say, and as for the cheat Conor Benn, he will be found out soon enough. Get him on VADA testing. But George is saying he doubts Zuffa will be testing their fighters. Well, I hope so. I hope they do, but who knows? But they'll blame the promoter. And as for Buatsi, he made his bed so he can lie in it. Look, it is really tricky. But anyone that knows how the IBF works knew that they were gonna take the status. They were gonna do that. They're gonna take the belt off him. To be fair, I thought they might have took it off Usyk, but then somebody in the comments said, I think the other belt was up first. That's why he passed it over to Fabio. And I'm all up for that, because I'm not too au fait when it comes to how the belts, who's next in line, etc., works. But what's easy for me now, I've got this cheat, because Zuffa is the cheat code. So I'm going to learn their strategy and how they work. And the more quality fighters that they buy, and they will be doing it, they'll make the belt lucrative. And that is what's going to happen moving forward. Foxy goes on to say, hasn't Eddie been respectful to Jai since he's left? Yet Jai made it sound like Eddie has been talking bad on him non-stop in that interview. Yeah, I did see that. I think that was the one on TalkSport. Are you saying, Foxy? Eddie just spoke on facts, saying that he'll be stripped of the IBF, which, yeah, I think the majority of us, Foxy, knew that was going to happen. My camera is going to dip off now because it's saying that my battery is dead, but I'm definitely still here. So let me just switch my camera. I'm definitely still here. It's just that it's dead. There we go. Back to it. I don't know how, because it's plugged into the charger, but here we are, whatever. Yeah, it was on TalkSport. Jay's interview on TalkSport was a bit odd. I thought, I don't know, none of us know what goes on behind closed doors, because we don't. So I don't know what has happened with Jay and Eddie for Jay to come out and say that about his promoter. But you have to understand that if fighters are leaving promoters, I keep doing this. I've got to stop doing this. I compare boxing to relationships. And it's like that guy that's always trying to step to you and he's trying to chat you up and you're like, nah, I'm not interested. So when you get, rebutted, or when you get your refusal, like, oh, you butters anyway. I never wanted you anyway. And that is the kind of narrative that's being spun, because you've got to understand that Jai Opetaia is now with Eddie's competitor. Like I said, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but he's not going to make Eddie look like the golden boy, is he? Because he's not. So, yeah, it was weird though. Zuffa, so Georgie, apologies. Zuffa has less flexibility with their weight categories. You're right, they have changed them up. The traditional 4 alphabet organizations will still have place in the game. And yeah, to confirm, it definitely was on TalkSport. Thanks for that. I only saw clips, so I didn't see like the full interview in its entirety. But the clip that I did see was like, I kind of like, nobody's saying that you owe any promoter anything. And there's a massive difference. Nobody's having a go at Jai going to Zuffa. Fair play to him. He's going to go where the majority of the money is. What we're saying is that if you've collected, you've earned that belt. He's 2-time with IBF because he got stripped and then he got it back. Yeah. So he's 2 times with the IBF and he wanted to keep that and collect more. He said it several times and now he can't. That's what the subject is. You know, him and Eddie and Dana having their arguments, other fights not necessarily being made. I don't think Eddie's got any cruiserweights anyway. He's got Chev Clark. Would you have put him in with Chev Clark? I doubt it. And Chev's on the rebuild now. So Jai is going to go after what he believes is best for him. But the sales pitch to me seems like I'm going to make you the greatest star. You're going to become the undisputed. And it's not necessarily that. That's what it looks like. Alex, good afternoon to you. In my opinion, Zuffa isn't doing anything different than any entity in boxing. They come in with big money, overspend to get big names for credibility, rinse and repeat, nothing new. And I'm with you on that. And that's another discussion in itself. Because like Dana White said in interviews, he's in the position now where there's loads of money to throw about. Loads of money. But, all right, we'll use Conor Benn as an example. Allegedly, and I ain't seen the contract, so to me it's allegedly, he's been paid, I believe it's 15 million. That's the amount that's been thrown out. Is it a signing on fee? Is it a one-fight deal? What is it? So, all right, he gets 15 million. I'd love to see that in my bank. Thank you. Nice interest, patterned, invest in properties all over the world. Let's collect some rent. And my family's patterned for generations. Marvelous. But who's going to pay someone 15 million for one fight? Now, if they are, I stand corrected and I can't say anything. But what my common sense or my head would tell me is, yeah, that's nice, that 15 million. But what am I going to have to do in return? Just for one fight? Are you sure? So I'm signed for 15 million for just that one fight. So then I can go back to Matchroom or I could go to Queensbury if I didn't like the way things work. When somebody's paid 15 million for you, you're going to be reluctant to leave anywhere. But does he pay that 15 million? He's like, yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to Matchroom and they say, no, because the microscopic print at the bottom said, you paid 15 million and we've got you for how many years? Yeah, it's one fight, but you can't fight for anybody else except for us in this set period of time. Now, I'm not saying that's in the contract, but I'm saying, could it potentially be something like that in the contract? Because listen, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not a billionaire. I don't deal with that type of money. But that's a lot of money to say to someone for just one fight. So like Alex was saying, come in with big dough, overspend to get the names for credibility. That's what I'm saying. It's the person attached to the belt and then rinse and repeat, nothing new. So who knows? So what was Jai promised? I can go back to, and the thing is, when it comes to Eddie and Dana now saying things, you know, they are having their to and fro, their back and forth. Eddie made it clear that he's looked at, you know, the wage slip, the salary of Tom Aspinal. And it was like, it's, I think he said, and I'm sure he said, that Tom Aspinall's wage, or one of his wages, one of his purses, was half the amount of money that he would pay for the British title fight in the UK. Now, I don't know if the British title fight, I've heard various numbers between 20 grand and 100 grand, depending on who it is. That could be all cap. Because like I said, I've never looked at anyone's contract and seen what they've been paid for it. This is all rumorville. But when he's saying that, he's having a go, and therefore the anti-MMA or the anti-Dana White fans are going to say, yeah, see, told you, he's not paying his fighters. That's why he's had all these legal disputes. So with that, fair enough. All right, pinch of salt. So Tom Aspinall's gone to Eddie. Allegedly, Dana said that Tom Aspinall quit with his eye gate. Whatever happened there, don't know. Like I said, I'm not an MMA guru. I'd be lying if I said I was. So if Eddie, who is Dana's competitor, has signed him as talent, which is maybe a semi-managerial position, is Eddie going to be able to negotiate with Dana more money? That's me throwing out a question to you guys. Do you think he'll be able to negotiate more money for a UFC fighter that was previously or still is managed by his father? Is he going to be able to negotiate up in his money? Are UFC fighters allowed to have external sponsors? Because one of the key things that Eddie mentioned that he wanted to do is part of the talent agency is to get them fighters. Will they be allowed to do that? We've seen the uniforms with Zuffa. Don't get me wrong. It looks like Joe Patai had a bit of colours and culture to his shorts. Great. But when it comes to external sponsorships, will he be allowed to do that? And this is where is a potential conflict already with the contracts. Like I said, I'm not privy to them. I'm just asking questions on how this relationship is going to work. Let me go back to the comments 1 second. Right, it's Nadeem. Good afternoon to you, especially knowing how the UFC guys move. Now, the UFC fan base, jump in the comments. I'm ignorant and I don't know anything about it. I tend to just stick on the boxing. I understand that a little bit more. By no means an expert, but I understand it a little bit more. So the UFC guys, you're the ones that I need in the comments right now so we can do some comparisons. Big Texan, 4B, good afternoon to you. No disrespect to Jai, but Malignaggi and Spencer said that Jai isn't the most intelligent of fighters and is easily manipulated. It would have made more sense to go to Golden Boy for unifications. Ooh. Interesting comment that. Spencer is in Spencer Oliver. They said that he's not the most intelligent. Damn, that's brutal. That's brutal. So yes, from 5 fights ago, okay, or 4. Oh dear, I'm missing out that now. Nadeem, can you just put what that is to remind me what I was talking about? Because I do go off on a tangent. So Big Texan B goes on to say Jay's manager has mugged him off for steering him to Zuffa. Golden Boy, you know you're getting Zerdo or Benavidez at least. And Michaelian is I forgot about Michaelian. Is a free agent. How can I forget about him? Once again, good comment. Got a lot of time, and this is from Foxy for the Magic Man Malignaggi. I've heard so much nonsense from him, Algeria and other US boxing channels lately. I'll leave that to you. To be fair, I haven't listened to those, but don't shoot me. Yes, but because he's locked into the contracts. I think the UFC is known to have strict contracts, and quite rightly so. If you want to lock in your business, and I'm going to say the M word for monopoly, if you want to lock in and make sure you're the key empire in what you do, you have to have strict contracts. There will be an element of wrongdoing to make sure that you stay in control. It's just the way any empire works. We've seen this. We can see what's going on at the moment with empire building. It's never, they say all is fair in love and war, and I think that just echoes through all of it. Is it Shining God? It's a nice name. Good afternoon to you. So UFC fighters start out normally with a 10K 10K contract. You only get 10K if you lose and 20K if you win. Lockdown like this for 6 fights at least. Wow. Okay. I didn't. This is what I'm saying. I didn't know that. So that's kind of like their margin when they start off. So what is? So you've got that base range then, Shining God. What is their mid range and their upper ranges in potential purses? And may I ask as well, and I'm not trying to undermine what you're saying, where's your sources for this? Because in boxing, if you try and ask how much someone's paid, they want to slit your throat. So is this like public information? Can I have a look at this? Because I'd love to see where this information's from. Toby Ringel Bartlett, good afternoon. Sorry, no guest today. I just didn't want to record a video. So this is just live and then it will stay up. You know me, I don't edit stuff anyway. So yeah, we're doing it different this afternoon. So let's have a look. Foxy goes on to say, Probox was saying Eddie not doing a good job for Boots, and Eddie should have made Boots v Benn instead of protecting Conor. Well, that's backfired, hasn't it? Why would Benn fight Boots instead of Eubank ×2? Eddie took Boots back to Philly. Right. Eddie has clearly looked after Conor, and the Eubank fights, as you know, no belts, but it's a money fight because of the family legacy. Am I saying that's right or fair? No. But a lot of you will say you'll apply this and it's money over legacy, money over belts, money over, you know, a massive challenge. But then in the next breath, you'll say, well, what's Jai supposed to do? He's got to go for the same money. Everybody that is in the business, and I'm sure, I'm thinking if I was in boxing business, I always try and sit in every seat possible. If I knew I could make more money off a fighter from matchmaking than making a fighter go for a belt, or keep that fighter as long as I can as a public favorite because they're winning or building their profile, I'm doing that all day. I'm not saying that it's right. And I'm not saying, you know, all the moral compass or blah, blah. When you think about money, is there any morality in money? We've seen that it doesn't matter what you do. People will stab you in the back for cash. And I know this is like wildly off topic, but I spoke to Kamil Sokolowski years ago, and he had dreams of becoming a champion. He was a good boxer, but he said his management was that greedy. They threw him into the fight with Dillian because of the money that they got paid for it, when they knew that he wouldn't beat Dillian, but they wanted the money. So then after that, his like dream was gone, and he was always put in fights as the B-side because his management wanted to make sure they were making the most of the money off him. That's not my words, that's his. It's way down years ago in the YouTube conversations that I've had here. Everyone wants to make dough. And I think that's what I'm saying when I'm hearing Jai talk about, yeah, I want unified, I want all the belts, I want this, I want that. And then Zuffa come along and I don't know what they've said to him, but obviously the money's great. I don't know what they've said to him about the belts, but I'm taking it that might have been glazed over, like, oh yeah, we'll sort that out. Listen, just sign there. Just sign there and we'll sort out that after. Listen, life-changing money. What's he gonna do? So, sorry. Yeah, kind of drifted off there. I'll do that. You was talking about Tom Aspinall's pay. Thank you very much. And it's poor. Yeah, I think Nadeem, Eddie kind of alluded to that, but sometimes you have to just take a step out of it and then just look at everything and then make your own decisions out from what you see. Because like I said, at the moment, there is a tug of war going on. I mean, if Eddie signs John Jones tomorrow, I'll just drop off my chair and just be really shocked. But I can't see that happening. But a lot of things in boxing that you say you can't see happening do happen. So the US seem to think Conor Benn is an absolute megastar in the UK. People really underestimate the pull of Eubank, Eubank Jr. had in those Wembley fights since Benn went to Zuffa, and he's lost even more of his fan base. It's interesting because I do follow Conor because I've got on with him. But like I said to you guys, there's like Jai Apataya, yeah, he goes to another promoter. Some of the other Eddie's fighters, yeah, they go to another promoter, yeah, so what? Yeah, yeah. But when Connor did it, and like I said, I've been there and I've watched and I've seen everything that's happened and the way that he's obviously dealt with it. That's why everyone has a problem with what Connor's done. But at the end of the day, he's going to look after himself. And who taught him about loving the pound note and being about money? It's his promoter. And I think, and I've said this like loads of times, you get them, you lose them how you get them. So if somebody did something to you for something, I guarantee they're going to do it to somebody else, and it just continues. Like I said, when it comes to morality with money, there's rarely any at all. Shining says the source is Dana Hunter Campbell. Okay, is public info. Thank you. Like I said, I'm not good at all with the MMA stuff, and I know sometimes when I say things, it can come like I'm patronized, but I need educating on this because this is MMA is not my forte. Let's have a look. Hello to you, James. So Martin goes on to say Boots would box Benn's ears off, as would Shakur. Well, as would Haney. If you saw me, I had when did the last time I sat down with Eddie? I can't remember when it was. And we spoke about, it's not the launch of the DAZN extension. I think it was before that. Was it? Can't remember. Whatever. And I was saying to him that I liked the fight with, what was his name? The one that Haney fought. I didn't find it boring when they were saying that it was boring. And I did say to him, you're dismissing that fighter because you know, obviously his skills compared to Conor. I've asked these questions. It's there. Eddie did protect Conor. Will Zuffa do the same for Conor? This is what we're going to find out. Benn's even running scared from Josh Kelly. I spoke to Josh Kelly. You know, when Josh Kelly lost to Avanesian, was that when all the blood was spurting out the back of his neck? And I remember watching that and feeling sick. Not very good with when all the blood was pumping in it. Anyway, he lost that fight. And then he went to Wasserman for a bit. And then I went to their open day. And Josh Kelly has wanted to fight Conor Benn for the longest. He was talking to me about it then. He's always wanted that fight. And I would have liked to have watched that fight as well. Will that fight happen now? Who knows? James, why would Eddie put Conor or out Conor? It's not good business. Out Conor, I think you meant. It's not good business. Plus, Conor and Eddie made more money from the Eubank fight. Don't forget that Eddie, Warren boxing is proper business. You do reckon? Okay. I reckon that will happen with J2. That's Nadeem. And yeah, I do know where we are now. And others will take more from him. I spoke to Carl Frampton. And I get it, you know, sometimes when you listen to your content and you want like you want your sound bites, don't you? You want what's interesting about this, what's happened about that. But I'm looking at the person that I'm speaking to and I'm thinking, okay, what advice can I get from them about their experiences that they've had? What can they tell me that will obviously go through the channel to help other fighters? Say, for example, if fighters do listen to the channel, or you might know a fighter and you say, oh, you might want to check that conversation out that Carl Frampton had with myself, because I asked about what advice would you give to fighters, and he was like, read that contract, read it, and then get an external independent person to go over it. Independent. Now, this is not your manager, and sorry guys, because your manager is going to always get a cut of the nice big money. But is your manager, and I'm not saying this applies to all of them, is your manager going to really have your best interests at heart, or are they just looking to get paid? When I think, you know, I'm thinking, if I'm a manager, would I underhand fighters because I know that I'm going to get big money? Morally, sitting here now, I'd say no. But if I was in that position, would I then turn into a hypocrite and think, you know what, I'm going to take some money, make some money? But then does that make me a trustworthy person as far as gaining new clients, new fighters, or does it build my profile? Because the amount of money, which, like I said, money is everybody's god, that I've made for these fighters, it's a whole debate within itself. And you might be sitting there thinking, what the hell is she on about? Money takes away morality. Let's have a look. Nadine goes on to say, but that said, he's admitted on TalkSport like he'd give away money to fight, sounding like he'd fight for free. And this is why, yeah, I remember that, because I think that was, how dare I forget his name? Really nice guy. Chris Billum Smith. He was saying, I'll give you my purse just so I can have that fight. Was that before he lost to Zerdo or after? I can't remember. But I do remember that. And this is why it's good to have a business brain. But you know, when you're fighters, and I've said this, yeah. Are they there to have that business brain? Are they there to just go and fight? I think some fighters have got both. But I think some fighters will just listen to their management and just believe everything that's said and not do their own research. So that means you've got to have a really solid team around you that's going to protect you to the hilt. Otherwise, you will be taken advantage of, because at the end of the day, it is business and it isn't personal. Martin says, yes, Ben would be cooked by any of them. How do you think he's going to get on with Regis Prograis? Big Texan Beeb says, I'd say Eddie's done a great job for Boots. He went from fighting on PBC undercards, doing nothing, to selling out arenas in his hometown and nearby. Got him unified at welterweight. All right, then, a follow-on from that. Do we expect a lot more from promoters than they actually do? Do we get, I don't know, are we ever satisfied as boxing fans? Can we actually say, you know what? Yeah, he's done a good job there. But then do we always have to find a negative point with it? Do we always have to say, oh, well, he should have been doing this for him, or he should have been doing... Are we ever satisfied with what's going on? One thing I will say, since His Excellency and all of those guys have got involved in boxing, we've had some fantastic fights, because we have entertaining fights. Me sitting here with matchsticks on my eyes, talking to you lot for 5 hours because they decided to have concerts in the middle of the fights, which I'm quite glad that they're scrapped. But we've seen some really great fights, and it's given all of the promoters a shake up, and it's changed the way they do things. But as you can see, the money is now potentially being withdrawn from our key promotional companies, and has been put in to Zuffa. So the money is there. So you will see fighters start to fluctuate over in that direction, no matter what the promoter has done for them, or in Jay's case, hasn't done for them. How much was Jay getting paid when he was fighting back home before he was signed to Matchroom? How much? You know, so when you look at, you're in a job, and I don't know, you work from an apprentice and you go up and your money's at a good level, and then you see another job and it's a job that has high turnover. Sometimes they even close down the factory or whatever it is, close down the business and open back up, but it's like double the money that you're earning. Are you looking at the long-term risk, or are you looking at that short-term cash? And this is what I'm saying. So anyone can make anyone look rubbish if you are money orientated, because you're thinking about your family, or because you're just greedy and you want more. It's one of them, isn't it? And at the moment, we know that there's a lot of money going into Zuffa, but it's untested because it has to stand the test of time. But they're going to be becoming more aggressive, and they're going to be taking more fighters, and they will make that belt lucrative. I do believe that, if and when they get the talent to hold the belts, because everyone's going to try and follow over there. So then you have to ask the 4 belts that we've got here. I mean, everyone's dropping the WBC like it's nothing. How many fighters now? Is it 3? WBC champions. what is he going to do about that belt? Is he going to cap the percentage that the fighters need to pay the organization? Because you can ask for a percentage, but then it should be capped above a certain amount. Otherwise, the more money you get, you're still cutting into that same percentage. And personally, I don't think that's fair. I think it should be capped. So what are the belts going to do to make themselves more lucrative? The IBF have clearly made a statement because they said, nah, we don't recognize that. So you can't have that for unification. So we're going to take it back. What are the other belts going to do as well? And this is the question. And I think over the next, I'm going to say 2 years to be generous, I think we'll see what will happen with them. Big Texan goes on to say, and got him the current WBA #1 spot. Yep, working through the strategies. And Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren's good at that as well, along with being well paid throughout and profile through the roof. Yes, he's fantastic at building profiles. He is good at that because he's a mouthpiece, because he will stand up and do 768 interviews. So every time you go onto boxing, all you're seeing is Eddie's face talking about his fighters. That's a promoter, isn't it? Because it's like, and it starts to become part of the algorithm out there in the social media, because he does everybody. So you'll see it on YouTube. His face will come up every single minute, but that's what he does. And that's why he's able to build the profiles, because he's always out there on social media, because he is a mouthpiece, because he knows how to talk. Do you know what I mean? So ProBox was saying, and this is from Foxy, about Josh Kelly agreed to fight Boots. He did before his world title win, and now it's gone quiet. He's going for Xander Zayas, I believe, instead. So they were saying that Boots is low on the list for Eddie. Now, this is a really good conversation, and this is this is kind of like that trick question. Yeah, all right then. You're going to sign with us, yeah? Okay, yeah. So part of that, you're going to fight Boots. Yeah, okay then. But we're not going to say when. But you're going to fight him though. And that's that contract, isn't it? It didn't say to sign with us, your next fight is going to be with Boots. You know, like when a purse bid's ordered and they say you're going to fight him by, I don't know, July the 31st. Well, 30 days after September, April, June, and November. Yeah, July the 31st, 2026. That's probably not in there. It's just, yeah, you'll fight him. And I think that's what's happened there. But like I said, I'm not privy to contracts. Boots is something else. We know this. Who's gonna jump and run to fight him? Who? The only one crazy enough that I think would do it, and probably, well, he can't because he's in the same camp, isn't he? Is he even at the same weight? I was thinking of Jack Catterall. There's levels, and Boots is levels above Kelly compared to Benn. Boots is on a different planet. But we're not going to find out now, are we, Martin? Foxy said, I expect Benn to beat Prograis. Okay. He hasn't looked great in his previous fights and coming up in weight. Is it what did they say the weight was? 150? It's a good last big money fight for Regis. And I hope he wins, honestly. And I bet you a lot of people are going to hope that Regis wins. I hope, that Conor gets through. But I think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and I think he'll learn them along the way. And maybe in, 20 years' time, he'll sit back and reflect and think, yeah, I probably should have done things differently. We all do it. Martin says Benn's only agreed to fight Regis because he's coming towards the end of his career. So he kind of echoes what Foxy said, and he's slowing down. James says, not sure how Regis is at the moment. He's the better boxer, though. Bit of a positive talk there from James. George goes to say, no, promoters done a good job. We're all talking about Jai. Managers done a poor job. George says, goals for the WBC or the WBI, why stay for the IBF? Only Chris Welsh, big up and hope you're well. Back at you. Chris, Foxy goes a bit like Andrade back in the day. Couldn't get the fights in his prime. Yes. He was one of them that people avoided, didn't he? And then he was trying to call people out. And then when he called Canelo out, Canelo mocked him, talking about the payday. Yeah, I remember that. Andrade was a good boxer. So Chris is saying, can't begrudge Benn, just the way he's gone about it for me. Aspinal signed as another cash cow for Hearn, and Aspinal deserves it. Chris, elaborate on that. Why does he deserve it? I'm interested to hear why you would say that. Like I said, MMA with me, I don't get it. So I'm all for you telling me why you think that Aspinal deserves it. As in deserves to get the money, or he deserves to be like a cash cow in a negative way. I can take that two in one way. Is that sometimes with typing, when you do that, it makes it sound a little bit sharper than it possibly is. But one thing that we do know, like I said, with all of this, the landscape is definitely changing for boxing. I think a shake-up's good. I think it's like, I think competition, as in, you know, the fighters can get more money as well because they'll have to. I think there's going to be a lot of overpaying at the moment. There's going to be potential matching. You know, we've got matching rights. I think Connor said, not Connor, sorry. I think Dana said an offer account like was sent to Eddie and he couldn't match it. And then Eddie said, well, yeah, you gave me kind of like 3 days to look over a contract and match it. So it's like 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. But the shake-up is good. I think some of the fighters will benefit. I think the belts will start to actually realize it's the fighters that make us. So we may have a little bit of a rejig with what's happening with the belts. Because, I mean, you've got Usyk fighting Rico Van Heerden, who coincidentally enough, Tom Aspinall, Rico Van Heerden, they're out of Peter Fury's camp, I think. So you've got those fights happening. I don't know what's happening with Usyk's belts. I don't know if any of that's been sanctioned because I haven't looked at it. But this is where we are in boxing. It almost seems like a free-for-all. And because the rankings aren't taken seriously, because it's always going to be money over rankings, this is what devalues the belts. So my question is, what are the belts going to do to secure their value? What are they going to do to make sure everyone sees the importance of belts in an era, in a time when it's all about money? Because money pays the bills, the belts don't. Let's have a look. Foxy says, and Ngannou's likely to be one of, yeah, I thought about that. But then I said in the beginning, Foxy, can he work with Dana? Didn't they have a lawsuit? And correct me if I'm wrong. That's going to, I don't know. Unless he's going to convert to boxing. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I thought about Ngannou. I did say Johnny Bones or John Jones. But then you know who I said as well? And I don't know if he's still, is he UFC? Fabian Edwards, because he's British, ain't it? So I was wondering if he's going to go for Fabian Edwards. Maybe I should take my little ass down to that gym. Shout out to Fabian Edwards, fellow Brummie. So I'll be interested to see that actually. Thinking out loud. Chris goes on to say, I obviously don't watch MMA, too brutal for me. But from everyone that I've spoken to, he hasn't been getting paydays he deserved after what he's achieved. And I think that's echoed in the comments, Chris. I think a few people have said that. James agrees. He says a shake-up is good. People like Eddie and feed from that. Watch our Matchroom move. And it's great for the fighters. Yeah, I think the fighters will benefit from it, to be fair. And there'll be, because a lot of fighters, a lot of the A fighters potentially could go to Zuffa. So the promoters will be kind of like grabbing onto their B fighters that are good, but maybe don't have that profile or maybe don't have that face that fits, and then try and invest more in them because they know they've got a battle on their hands. These are the things that can happen, can't they? Foxy says, when you had Frank Smith on the other day, I caught the last 30 seconds, lol, but I wanted to ask a question about Keith Connolly. At the time when he became manager for Benn, I thought it was strange. And that's a good point. Foxy, there was a couple of people, I think somebody on my Instagram, shout out, I think his name's Riddler, because he's got the question mark as his profile picture. So shout out to him. He said the same thing. He said you can't have him because of what he's done before with obviously one of his other fighters. And don't ask me because my brain's fried. Who was it in the comments? What was his name? I can see him, you know, and I can't remember his name. James says, I think somewhere Richard Midnight Train said he thinks the Zuffa belt will be the one. Of course he would. He's money orientated, so I expect that he will say that. And I wouldn't be surprised. Not that I'm saying that because I haven't spoke to him in ages. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes over to them as a heavyweight. Wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. We see that Ben Shalom's got quite a few fighters on that. He's got Takivi, Riakpour, Fraser. And shout out to Fraser for going in with Justice Honey. I'm backing Fraser. Tough fight, but I'm going to back him because he's the Brit. But Honey can box, and he's light, and he can move, but he's not indestructible, as we've seen with what Fabio, the Terminator, did with him. So yeah, I won't be surprised with Richard. It seems like Boxer have got their in because that is the Netflix card, which is Ring, which is kind of Zuffa or whatever. So however you look at it, because no other promoter has been highlighted on any of the flyers. So potentially, are these fighters going to go over there? I mean, Ben Shalom's smiling at the moment, but will he be still smiling? You know, honestly, there's so many things to go through. I'd love to get Ben on. I did chase him before, but then he was like, not really, he weren't really coming back with anything. But shout out to him though. He did give me a condolence message, but I haven't chased him after that. And I'd really like to get his point of view with everything that's going on. But I haven't chased him. So that's my bad. I want him and Frank Smith to do a live together actually, and I'll sit in the middle and referee. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Chris says Hearn maybe will look into MMA for Matchroom to add to their boxing, darts and snooker. Who knows? The question is, will Matchroom talent be able to work with Dana? The money that Tom Aspinall's got as a heavyweight UFC champion, is Eddie going to be able to negotiate to increase that in the UFC? I don't know. So we'll have to see, won't we? And to be fair, Tom says that he still can't get punched in the head again. That's quite a severe injury. So yeah, so he's got to be careful anyway. And Conquest, peace. I'm loving it. They were all asleep at the wheel. Tear down that wall. And you're right. Asleep at the wheel is a really good analogy for that. Hitchens, thank you. JSM, thank you. Thank you so much. My head is frazzled. Hitchens is the Connolly fighter you were looking for. Thank you so much. Chris says, I'm torn, to be honest, on these belts. I like to have one champion, but I do like the 4 belts. They look good on Inoue, for example, and not just seeing a lot of fighters fighting for different belts. It's a hard one. I think because we're conditioned to like we see the 4 belts. We don't like the necessary politics that comes with having the 4 belts. But yeah, I like to see them as well. It's like you're standing up there, and when even unification, it doesn't, undisputed is fantastic. Of course it is. But even when you've got 2, to say that I've beaten this champion and that champion, and I'm unified, and you see the pride in the fighters when they're standing there, and that belt has value. I love that. So when they've got all 4 of them, and then some of them will have the ring as well. Oh, mate, phenomenal. But that's what we've been conditioned to see. But I'm going over old ground again. If they get serious contenders to sign with Zuffa, then that belt becomes lucrative because of the faces by the belt. That's just my opinion. That's why things, say for example, certain houses that are overpriced because the postcode that they're in, you'll buy it because you want to live in that postcode. Designer wear, it's not because it's really expensive to make. Yeah, the quality might be different, but you aspire to have that because it's expensive and you can show it off. It's the same thing. So whatever you make lucrative, and with boxing, it's the fighters' names that are attached to the belts. We'll see what happens. Martin says Wardley versus Dubois. Who you got? Fabio. Wardley's never been knocked down, has he? He's never been like, I know he's never lost. He's not been on the floor, has he? And if you notice the press conference, Martin, Michael Offo was really saying the comments towards Dubois about, like getting into his head. Dubois is more than capable to win because he is. We know we've seen what he did to Anthony Joshua at Wembley. I just cleaned him out. But I think when you've got that onslaught, that pressure from Wardley, Wardley's face can be hanging off and he still comes at you. That's intimidating. And if you're weak of mind or you've got that thing where you're like, oh, I don't really like this, that's what can get to him. And we've seen what's happened to him before. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm a massive fan of Don Charles, and I like Don Charles. I don't like the way that he was treated when Daniel left him. So maybe I'm saying Wardley because of that. Who knows? But we'll see. But I'm not sitting on the fence. I think Wardley can do it. You can't really write him off, can you? Put in the comments what you think. That's a very good question. Frank said he knows something about Ben Shalom that could end him. I know because he said it on my live, James. And even if I did know, I'd never repeat it. But I promise you I don't. Because, like with gossip and stuff like that, I tend to keep away from it. Because if it gets leaked and then someone says that I've said it, I ain't going to be too happy. Because people like to look with the thing who the weakest link is and start to nah. So if you know something about him that could end him, if he wants to say it, he can say it. But I don't know. Ears turned off, whatever. It's boxing. It's a very, very small world and people do gossip. And I'm going to tell you something, guys. Men, honestly, I thought women gossip. I'm a woman, believe it or not. But men gossip. Oh, dear lordy. Right, Chris says we're gonna have debates now where one fighter will say I'm world champion, but the other fighter will say I'm unified champion. Just playground stuff. It is very playground stuff. And Conquest, by the way, the Zuffa belt has over 40 real diamonds. Oh, so maybe it is worth something. You can sell it then when you've retired and you've got no money. You can dig out the diamonds like that guy was doing with the scarabs that were in the wall in the mummy, and then it jumped in his skin and ate him up and he died because he hit his head off the wall. Random. Scott Harding. Hey, Scott, good to see you. You can't bet against Fabio, you're right. It happens every fight. People bet against Fabio and lose. I've said it, you can't bet against him. Only Chris Welsh said, I had Parker beating Dubois before it was cancelled. I think Wardley has movement over Dubois. Fair enough. Martin never faced a puncher like Dubois though, but yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah, you can't write off the strength of Dubois. You can't write off his boxing skill. You can't. But you just can't. You can't look at Fabio and say, nah, you can't do that. It's a good fight. Hopefully I can get to watch that live. I do want to go to that. There's lots of fights coming up as well, but the next fight that I'll be going to is Moses and Jermaine Franklin. Good fight. Foxy said it's hard enough for fighters to win one of the 4 belts. If they make one belt, a lot of these fighters lose all hope ever becoming a champion. Look what it meant to Darren Barker winning the IBF belt. And that's a fair point. You guys have put some fantastic comments in here this evening. And I've learned a lot from you guys as well, especially about the MMA side, because I have no clue. The only thing I don't like about the 4 belts, the traditional belts, that you can have these silver champions, silver, interim. It gets all confusing. Like you've got the champion, even though they label it as a super champion, and then you've got the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 under it. That's it. Don't get us confused by putting another layer of like a silver and a gold, but it's not the Olympics. You've got a world champion, and then you've got people that work their way up the rankings to go for that title. Just keep it simple. That's the only thing I don't like about the belts. Foxy said the Zuffa belt looks like a WWF wrestling belt to me. It looks like the UFC belt. But this is how much of, lack of knowledge. I think the IBF is the IBF red, WBC green. I'm not the expert on the colors of the belts. So I think, like I said, once the fight is attached to it, then you'll know about the belts. I don't care what it looks like. So I doubted, this is only Chris Wells, I doubted Wardley v Clark Parker fight, so I can't go against him again. I've never doubted Wardley, but I didn't feel that Wardley thought that Fraser was good as he was. And I'm talking about fight number 1. I said to Dillian, stop writing off Fraser. I'm not saying that he's going to win. I said, just stop writing him off. Because he's good. But now he's going in with Justice. Wow. Mr. Flash, good evening. I got Daniel, but him not fist bumping Fabio in the face off was kind of iffy. Ooh. He didn't want to do it to anyone. I think Sky Sports tried to ask him to do it in the interview, and he's like, nah, I'm not doing that. Doesn't want to be touching these energies. Foxy says a lot of chatty patty people in boxing. Yeah, trust me on that. Bon Scott, hey Red, how are you? I'm fine, and I hope you are fine too. James says, yep, I agree. Fabio will do it. Scott says collecting the belts is more than conditioning, abs. It's the same in football. Doing the treble, FA Cup, Champions League, Premier League. It's much better than just winning the Premier League. Right. See, you've lost me with football because... Sorry, I don't watch football either. I'm watching F1 now. I'm getting up at 4 o'clock tomorrow morning to watch F1. Team Audi. Bon Scott says Dubois was well capable of going toe-to-toe. He did with Miller and Hergovich. He did. He definitely did. And it's going to be a tough fight. And now you're making me doubt my prediction, but I can't do this. I've got to stay. I've said it now. Chris says respect to Wardley for what he's achieved already. Absolutely. You got to take your hat off to him. You've got to respect him. Usyk is entitled to fight who he wants. I just don't think the belt should be on the line. I agree. You can't have one rule here, especially with the IBF. You're setting that standard for Jay. So what are you doing with this fight? Come on. This is a kickboxer going into having a boxing fight. No way should those belts be on the line. Is Fabio still with Ben Davids? I think he is. Unless you know something I don't, Scott. Martin says if Dubois comes with that double jab, it could be trouble for Wardley. But Daniel does leave his chin hanging out and just begging it for it to be cracked. What do you think about the up-and-coming fights with Okoli and Yoka? I think Okoli wins. And Smith versus Morrell. Now, Smith is a savage. Morrell's good, but we've seen what Benavidez did to him, but that's Benavidez. I think that's a solid fight. I don't know yet. I don't know about that one. But I do think Okoli's got the winning of Tony Yoka. Let's have a look, Barn. I never wrote Wardley off. I've seen what he can do when the chips are down. I supported Dubois through thick and thin, but no more. I'm going for a Wardley win. Foxy says, Tony Yoka. Yoni Yoka. I know that's a spelling mistake. We've done Charles now. Yes. I think he was with him for a while. He looked awful with Virgil Hunter. Do you remember? You don't remember Virgil Hunter literally tearing him a new arsehole when he was getting battered by Bacoli? Virgil Hunter was losing, excuse my French, ladies and gentlemen. He was losing his shit in that corner. It was almost like, when you're trying to tell your kids that 2 + 2 is 4, and they're asking him, "What's okay? So we've done this formula 15,000 times. What's 2 + 2?" And then the child looks at you and goes, 6. He was losing it, absolutely losing it. Yeah, it was horrific, horrific. Yeah, so he is with Don Charles. Sorry, little fun, little memories of boxing when the coaches tell off the fighters. Hope Buatsi moves trainer soon if he hasn't already. I've asked. No, I haven't asked recently, but I did ask at the time. JSM, we will get a lot more British fights with Zuffa taking the blue chip fighters, more British old school well-matched scraps. Eddie and Frank will chalk in together and build it back up. I think that's, yeah, potentially that's the way that it will go, because we do have great domestic fights anyway. And that is if Zuffa get, like you said, the blue chip fighters, if they do get the cream of the crop. The carrot is the big dough, but it's like when you go to the opticians and they give you that thing saying, "Oh, can you read this?" And then it starts off with really huge writing, and then it goes down to that like really writing where you're like, I'm getting old, so I'm like, you got to read that bit of the contract. You got to read it. Contract of Sam Van Ganza. Martin says Okoli wins by hugging submission. Nah, you're boxing. He's with Gallagher now. Oh, and Fraser Clark is. Oh, Fraser Clark used to be in the same gym as Richard Riakporhe with Angel Fernandez. And now Fraser Clark is in the gym back with, because obviously these are the GB boys, back with Lawrence Okoli. Oh, interesting. To be a fly on that wall. I wonder if they mention my name at all. Anyway, Clark can definitely, and this is from Chris, Clark can definitely hit Honey, but will go the same way as Clark TKV did, and Honey wins. I'd like Fraser to win, and I like Honey. I've never spoken to him. I haven't got any, but I would like Fraser to win. But I do believe that this is a dangerous fight. And no disrespect to Hunter, he's a well-respected trainer. This is from Foxy. But I haven't seen any improvement in Buatsi, sadly. The fights don't lie. And that is the resume, isn't it, Foxy? You have to look at the fights. And I do agree with you. I absolutely do. Scott says, by the way, how many heavyweight title fight opportunities has Uncle Frank got for Double D, Triple D now? This is his 4th time. And this is what I'm on about, loyalty. Sometimes you get protected by your team. Remember, Frank's had Dubois from the beginning. He was only a baby when he signed him. Obviously, he's got Moses Atama as well. That's another one of his babies. So you can see who the favorites are of the fighters. Yeah, they're like the fighters, but they're going to have the favorites. And I think Frank has always kind of looked after Daniel. I think he has. And I think anyone can see that. And when I say look after him, always give him those opportunities. And if you had a promoter, wouldn't you want your promoter to be like that with you? You would, wouldn't you? You'd like to be the favorite because you know that you're always going to get paid. There are consequences, of course, because it is heavyweight and people do get injured. Personally, let's have a look. Martin says, I think Moses smokes them all, Wardley and Dubois. I think Martin, I'm saying this now, I think we're going to learn a lot from this fight with Jermaine Franklin. Jermaine Franklin is as tough as our boots. He's never been stopped. Everyone tends to go the distance with him. So I think this is a really good fight. Potentially we're going to get those rounds, potentially. But as we know, Moses Atama is extremely explosive. But he's not just explosive, he's quick on his feet. So he moves around quite well. Yeah, he's got skills, he has. He has got skills, very, very skilled. But I am really looking forward to seeing. I'd like to see him go 12 rounds. I really would. I know he's gone to the max with when he was earlier in his career with a couple of fighters, but I'd like to see him go all the way through with this one. Just to see how he deals with that because the one thing Jermaine Franklin's good at is pressure. He doesn't go away, does he? So yeah, we'll see. So in my opinion, it's a Ponzi, 4 bodies with 4 different rules and the ability to modify at their discretion. Not good and no long-term vision. What do you think the long-term vision should be in Conquest? Let me know. Again, Chris says, I don't criticize a Coley style, to be honest. I was impressed with his Lorena performance, and that was a tough fight. And he had his bicep torn. Was it round 1? Can't remember. I don't see anything wrong with it. It's tactical. And he does. It's just not nice on the eye. He's awkward, isn't he? Alexander Wilson, good afternoon to you. On the portrait mode, the camera isn't centered to your face. Maybe I should get rid of the phone one. I'm trying to be in touch with my microphone. But yeah, turn your phone on to rotate, unless you're driving, of course. Yep, agree. It's a good test. Anyway, you don't necessarily need my face in it. This was going to be one of my faceless videos anyway, Alexander, because I know it's a bit mad, but sometimes it's good to just put up those videos so you can listen to what I'm saying. But I wanted the interaction today. I wanted to speak to you guys because I started off on Instagram and I was like, oh, you know what? Let me carry on this into a live. And as we do, we're discussing more or less everything. So that only Chris Welsh. I need to see Moses up against a world level opponents before I can jump on the train. He's been good so far, but he's beaten who he's supposed to beat. But this is the thing about managing fights. How many fights? And this is for the pugilists in the chat, because I know that there will be some. And I watched Mike Tyson fights. I was young, but I can't tell you who his first maybe 15 or 20 opponents were, because that's what you do. You build them against people with a record, people that may give them a good fight. That's how you build them. Mike Tyson was built like that. And then later on down the line, that's when he started to have tougher fights and lost as well. Lost some of them too. I don't think we should rush Moses either. Keep building his record. Yep, well, there you go. Exactly what I said. Build him, because there's plenty of people that he can get in there with. Whatever happened to Nathan Gorman? Good question. He was a decent boxer, probably still only 28, 29, and he seems to have fallen off the radar. He did, and he was good as well, to be fair. I did like Nathan Gorman. Nice guy as well. Spoke to him before when Matty Harris was turning pro. That was one of his key sparring partners to start off, to get him ready for turning pro. So yeah, good boxer. Nice team that he had around him as well. Martin said, I would love to see Moses get rounds. The only thing is Franklin's got slow feet and that spells trouble for him. I think he can put the pressure on though, Martin. And let's face it, his feet could be slower. He's older now, isn't it? When did he fight Joshua? 3 years ago. And Dillian, was it like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? So yeah, he's going to slow down. A natural regression. I like to think that I'm fast on the treadmill, but I ain't. Alexander Wilson, the sanction bodies like the WBC have been sued and lost lawsuits because they didn't follow their own rules. Oh, imagine that. I don't see this as a good fight for Moses, and that's from Scott. Franklin is light. I don't see this as a good fight for Moses. Franklin is light work. Okay, fair enough. Franklin is a brawler. He's not skillful enough or good enough. Okay, his feet to do 12 with Moses. We're going to find out, aren't we? What is it? 3 weeks away? Oh, sorry, Alex. You don't want to see my face anyway. I know Mike Tyson fought Joel Frazier's son in his first 15. Okay, his son. What about the others? I don't know. And this is what we do. You build fighters that necessarily haven't got a name. Unless I was there, like, literally studying it at the time, and I wasn't because I was a kid. I cannot tell you who his first 15 to 25. I can't. But I'm not a pugilist, though. Toby's okay. Yeah, you guys are having that personal conversation there. That's the other thing that annoyed me. That's from Foxy about the US channels. The disrespect towards Frank Warren with his court case, saying that he's looking for a way out of this. What? Serious? Saying that he's looking for a way out of the sport and wouldn't be missed. You know what? I didn't know that. But this is a thing about me not watching the US channels. Well, I don't know the ins and outs, but as soon as I saw Tyson Fury on that poster and I didn't see Queensbury, I was like, oh, yikes. Frank has the best heavyweight stable in the sport and more respect is needed. Absolutely. He's a veteran in the sport as well. Nice man, quite funny, straight to the point. Shoots from the hip, I'd say, with Frank Warren. Franklin, slow pressure. He'll get caught mid-punch. So you think he's going to get knocked out then? He's going to get stopped. The craziest thing, Mike Tyson was 20 when he won his first world belt. What was the competition like back then, though, for him to get his world belt? Because I know that's what Mosey said he wanted to do, but obviously that time has lapsed now, isn't it? I've seen old grandmas move better than Franklin. Oh, the disrespect for Franklin. That's from only Chris Welsh. Bon Scott said Mike Tyson's resume isn't that deep. 59 fights and a few decent opponents. Come up short against the best. And James says, yeah, I saw that nonsense about Frank too. I think it's the show with the Pro Box guys. I didn't know that. I'll have to check. But I only like I said, I'll look at a channel and I think, okay, where am I going to get some info from? Like I knew what I wanted to speak to you guys about today. So I specifically went to a couple of channels where I know that I could have made some mental notes to speak with you. Did AJ White make Franklin look good? White looked past it and AJ's punch resistance was gone. Damn, Chris, that's brutal. But you and I know, my favorite subscribers, my favorite commenters, that we could sit here and talk all day about boxing. It's a two-way. I learn a lot from you guys. You maybe, I don't know, you might learn a little bit from me, maybe not. But I do like to have the conversation about the sport. It's good to keep things interactive. And like I said, it's one of the things that I'll always pride my channel on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it for tonight. I don't know if I'm going to be watching the Misfits. I am going to try and get Eddie on next week. I'll see if I can get Tom Aspinal on next week. I can't promise anything, but I promise you I'm going to try. Potentially later on in the week, so either Thursday or Friday. And then I think we're going to start to move into some fight weeks. I may do another live impromptu, or I may just do a faceless upload if something comes out. But what I want to do is say to you guys, thank you very much for joining me. There wasn't any notice for this. Sorry if half of my face is cut off, but that is no loss to anybody. So I'm going to go now and get dinner ready. But yeah, anyway, like we say at October Red, you know what it is. And thank you once again to every single one of you. Stay ready.
People say I'm toxic, and honestly, I don't care.